Hello viewers, and a warm welcome to those new subscribers who have joined us from the Retro Man Cave channel. Been watching my video I did with him about the Quantel Paintbox. You've joined us just at the right time because we've got a Paintbox video. So I'm going to be working on my Quantel Paintbox Express. Specifically, I'm going to swap out the internal hard disk for these two SCSI to SD adapters. So I wanted to detail a bit on how this is done and also detail how you might recover a non-working paintbox if, for example, the hard disk has failed. Okay, so first off, if you happen to be another Quantel collector like me, then you really should have a backup of a couple of things. The first being the software as a bootable disk, and the other one is your software keys. Without either one of these, you won't have a working system, so be warned, make backups. So all paintboxes from this era have two SCSI buses, bus A and bus B. The system normally boots, normally boots from SCSI bus A, device 0. That is the boot disk and is known as the system disk. But Quantel also expected users to have a magneto-optical drive plugged in, and that would be on ID3. On later machines it was actually placed on the B bus, but on the earlier machines it's on the A bus. Doesn't really make any difference in terms of what we're doing here, but what the MO drive allowed you to do was to create a bootable image of the software, and you could actually boot from the external drive. So we're going to be using that facility to aid us in getting the software backed up and recovered and installed onto these two SCSI to SD adapters. Because these do have a really nice feature, as in you can actually partition out the SD card and have up to 4 drives on the actual SD card. So you can use 4 SCSI IDs, which is perfect for this situation because it means I can have a hard disk on device 0, and I can also put the MO drive as an emulated drive on the SD card as ID3. So what I'm going to do now is just plug these into my PC and we'll configure them. They will both be identical because there's no reason why they can't be, and I'll show you exactly how to configure one of these and set it up for the Quantel Paintbox. Okay, I've got this plugged into my PC and I'm going to show you the configuration as it is. So general settings, everything's just off. We have the SCSI terminators on for bus A because this is really the only device on the bus, so it needs to be terminated. Device 1 is going to be our magneto-optical drive, so I've just got this set up so it's an exact size of a standard 300 megabyte optical disk, down to the sector size and everything, and I've just got this entered in as a Sony SMO drive, just exactly mirroring what a real drive would be. So that's on ID3, starts at sector 0 on the SD card and runs through to 314,569 sectors of 1024 bytes. So the next device is device 0, which is going to be the hard drive, the actual system disk, and of course the shared disk on the other one. So that starts immediately after the MO drive on the SD card, and again it just mirrors what a real drive would look like. So what I'm going to do now is just write that to the actual device, and then we'll do the same to the shared disk version. So what I'm going to do is just change the serial number just so it's different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just completely random stuff. And write that to the second device. Okay, so now we have the SCSI to SD adapters configured, and I've also taken my bootable MO drive, disk I should say, and I've taken an image of that and then written that onto the beginning of each of these SD cards. So on the B bus one that has the MO drive, it will try and boot, or hopefully will try and boot that MO image from there, and then we can then go in and format all the disks properly and actually generate the proper bootable hard disk. So the next step now is to actually physically install them into the Paintbox. Okay, so here we are inside the Paintbox Express, and you can see the SCSI to SD card, the version 4 that has been previously installed in here, and the Quantum disk here, which is acting as the shared disk. So these are just going to get merged into one each of these. Now, unfortunately, on the SCSI to SD version 4, they actually had mounting holes which were the same size as standard 3.5-inch discs. But for some obscure reason, they decided on the V5.1 that they would change that to the 2.5-inch size hard disk mounting holes, which is just seems completely crazy to me. I don't understand why they've done that. Yeah, previously you could just screw these in exactly in the same mounting holes as the hard disk would have been, and it worked really well. But now on this, I can't. I'm going to have to drill new holes into the case and make some little standoffs and do it that way. It just seems crazy that why wouldn't you have these mounting holes the same as a 3.5-inch hard disk, which uses the standard 50-pin SCSI connector. I don't understand that. Anyway. Right, you can see roughly where these are going to go. I'm going to reuse one of the holes, so I just need to drill a total of 3 on each one to make the new mounting holes, so that'll be roughly about there. You can still get access to take the SD card in and out, and the SCSI connectors just go in at each end. Okay, so that's all the holes drilled. Actually, I've just spotted that. Nasty piece of swarf. Don't want that in there. So all the holes are drilled out. I'm just going to install some of these little plastic standoffs, and then we can mount the boards on those. Okay, that took a little bit of effort, but I've got all the standoffs mounted on the base there. Those little black things. So we can now install system disk and the shared disk. So we just need to screw those down and connect everything up. Okay, so I've got all the cards installed into the machine. I've just tucked it away underneath my desk. I think I've done my back in doing it, unfortunately, so a bit annoying. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is connect to the diagnostics console on the CPU card. So simple serial link. So I'm going to look at that on my computer, and from there we'll be able to go through and do what we need to do. So I'm just going to turn this on. I've actually set the boot switches to not auto boot the system, so it's not going to try looking for those boot files which aren't there at the moment. They'll just get in the way of things. So I've disabled those, so it just goes straight into the ROM monitor, and we can do what we need to do from there. So these are some of the commands that we can access from the ROM monitor, but what we need to do is load the software off that MO drive. Now, one thing I have noticed is, for some reason, the MO drive appears on channel B device 0. I'm not quite sure why that is, but it is definitely set on ID3. I wonder whether that's a bug or something, I don't know. But it makes a little difference. As long as we can get the software loaded in and run it, that's fine. So, if I load or at least look at the boot files which are on the virtual MO disk, which we need to type in, give index of files, so we want B0 index, so B0 index. Those are the boot files that are currently on that MO drive. I'm just going to pick boot number 1, which will work on this particular machine. So we do B01L, which means load boot file 1 from device 0 on channel B, even though it's not actually device 0, it's device 3. There we are. So that's loaded in and checked. So we just need to run the software now, and to do that we press G. So this will boot partly up. And what we need to do now is, even though the main software isn't running, it won't at the moment, what we need to do is format the 2 hard disks and then copy the software onto them, and then make them bootable. So to do that, we go into Filer and then to Utilities, and from here what we're going to do is initialize. This doesn't actually format the disk, it just formats it in the Quantel format, if you see what I mean. It's like doing a quick format. There are format commands, but you don't really need to use them. So initialize, then the drive number, which we're going to be doing the system disk on the CPU card, so that is #0. The number is literally just the device ID number. All the channel A devices are 1 to 7. Channel B, you just place a 1 in front, so if you wanted device 0 on the B bus, you would put in 10. So, and then we want to title the disk system disk. So that's now going to format okay, for some reason it's actually mounted the drive 0, so I'm just going to dismount. And we can now go back to the initialize, and we should be able to do that now. There we go. And now we need to do the same for the other drive on the B bus. Which is also mounted, interestingly. So dismount 10 force. So initialize 10. Okay, so that is done. Now we need to copy the boot file to those two drives. So to do that, we come out of utilities, go to File and do flist 13, which is the MO drive. I'll give us a list of all the files that are on the MO disk. So we need to copy the Paintbox. No, I'm not going to use the version 1.15. I'm actually going to use a slightly newer version, which is, where is it? There it is. 2.12. So that's 26.2 file number. So we need to copy hash 13, which is the source. Dot 26.2 to the destination, which is drive 0. That's done. Next step is to actually make that, assign it to be a bootable system file. So we need to go back into utilities and use the boot command. There's various things you can do with this command. It's quite handy. So we need to boot. We're going to look at drive 0. We want to assign a boot position, assign number 1 to be hash 0, and we want the file number from this, which is 3.1. So 0.3.1, and that will basically assign that file to be in boot position number 1. It's done. So boot 0 list. There we go, that's ready there. So we need to now do the same for the shared disk to make the netcom boot. So we need copy 13 dot, and we want netcom version 2. Netcom version 2.13. That's it. So it's 19.2. 19.2. And that goes to drive 10. That's done. So now back into util and boot 10, assign 7 to be hash 10 dot, and that will have probably the same file number, 3.1. Yeah, that's done. Right, now what I'm going to do now is just kill this system off with Control Y. What that does, it just whatever software is running, it just kills it and drops into the little monitor program, and then from there we can go back to the main ROM monitor. So I'm just going to kill that so it's not doing anything, and I'm going to switch the diagnostics cable over onto the netcom board, because what I want to do is actually try and boot that up, because that should boot now. So I've just swapped the cable over, and you can see here slightly different menu. So if I do index, we now have the netcom available there, so we can do 7L and that will load in boot number 7. It does. So we can now run that. So that is up and running. There's a few extra messages coming in. That's all fine. It's just doing this is just stuff because it's a freshly formatted disk. So that is the netcom up and running. Right, so swap the diagnostics cable back to the CPU card. So we're in that point where we stopped the software, so now we need to do exit, which just drops us back to the ROM monitor. So now we should be able to see the Paintbox boot file. And we can now load it, and we're going to be booting version 2 this time. So 1L, we'll load that in. And we can now run it. Right, our serial numbers are already here and ready, which is great. Sometimes if you've generated an MO disk from a system, it copies the passwords onto the MO disk, and then if you ever create a new system, it copies them back. So it's actually quite clever in that respect. So, but if you were at this point and you had no passwords listed there, so long as you've got them written down, you can then just add them with the with commands like add. It's literally just add and space and then the actual password, type that in and it just adds it, and that enables the options in the actual software. So don't need to do that. So theoretically we should be able to run the main software. Yay, and there we have the software running. There we go, we have a cursor. And that is pretty much it. I need to copy over all my old files, but that's pretty easy. I can just connect this onto the SCSI bus onto the external port, and then just mount this as another drive and just copy the files across. Pretty easy. So I hope you found that interesting, and maybe if somebody's doing this in the future, they can refer to this video and it will help you out. If you've got any questions, you can always leave those down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.